The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like dying insects as Simone Patterson pressed her forehead against the cold window of the 72nd floor. Below, the city sparkled with 1,000 promises she would never touch. Her hands, raw and cracked from industrial cleaner, clutched the mop handle so tightly her knuckles ached. In her pocket, her phone vibrated. Another text from the hospital. Another bill she couldn't pay. Another night her 10-year-old daughter Brianna would fall asleep wondering why mommy worked so late, why they lived in that tiny apartment, why everything had to be so hard. 7 years ago, Simone Patterson had been a name whispered in boardrooms with reverence. She had built financial empires with nothing but her mind and a calculator. Harvard graduate at 19. Chief financial strategist at Goldman Sachs at 23. She had been unstoppable. Then Conrad Hayes, her husband, the man she'd trusted with everything, had destroyed it all. He'd framed her for insider trading, stolen her research, threatened to take Brianna if she ever tried to fight back. The courts, the media, everyone believed him. He had money, power, connections. She had nothing but her daughter and the truth. So Simone had done the only thing a mother could do. She'd disappeared. She'd erased herself from the world of finance, changed her appearance, taken the most invisible job she could find. Night janitor at Whitmore Industries. A ghost in a blue uniform, scrubbing toilets in the very industry she'd once commanded. Every night, she cleaned the offices of people who would have once begged for 5 minutes of her time. Every day, she kissed Brianna goodbye and pretended their life was normal. Every moment, she lived in terror that Conrad would find them. The elevator dinged behind her. Simone didn't turn around. The executive floors were supposed to be empty at 2 a.m. She kept mopping, kept her head down, kept being invisible. Well. Burning the midnight oil, are we? The voice was deep, amused, entitled. Simone's stomach clenched. She recognized that voice. Julian Whitmore. The billionaire CEO himself. 38 years old, devastatingly handsome, and the kind of man who thought the world existed to entertain him. She'd seen him in passing, always surrounded by assistants, always laughing, always so certain of his place in the universe. She didn't look up. Just doing my job, sir? Your job. Julian's footsteps echoed across the marble floor. She could hear other voices now. He wasn't alone. Fascinating. Tell me something. What's your name? Simone, sir. Simone. Beautiful name. Simone, I have a question for you. His tone shifted, became theatrical. He was performing for someone. My colleagues and I were just having a debate about the Hartman merger. You know, the $30 billion deal that could make or break this quarter. And I thought to myself, why not get a fresh perspective? So, Simone, what's your professional opinion on leveraged buyouts in a rising interest rate environment? Laughter erupted behind him. 3 men in expensive suits, ties loosened, glasses of whiskey in their hands. They thought this was hilarious. The billionaire CEO asking the janitor for financial advice. Peak comedy. Simone's hands tightened on the mop. Every instinct screamed at her to stay quiet, stay invisible, stay safe. But something else stirred inside her. Something she'd buried for 7 years. Pride. Rage. The truth that no matter how much she scrubbed floors, she was still the woman who'd outthought every analyst on Wall Street. She raised her head and looked Julian Whitmore directly in his blue eyes. The Hartman merger is going to fail, she said quietly. You're overpaying by at least 40%, the due diligence missed 3 subsidiary debts that will surface within 90 days, and your integration timeline assumes market conditions that don't exist anymore. If you proceed as planned, you'll lose everything by Q2 next year. But you know what the real problem is? You're asking the wrong questions. You're so focused on the acquisition price that you haven't noticed Hartman's CEO has been selling his personal shares for 6 months. He knows something you don't. The company you're buying is already dying. The laughter died. The silence that followed was so complete Simone could hear her own heartbeat. Julian Whitmore's face had gone completely blank. Behind him, one of the executives had gone pale. Another had pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. Who are you? Julian's voice had changed entirely. The amusement was gone. Now there was something else. Respect. Hunger. Simone picked up her mop bucket. Her hands were shaking. She'd said too much. She'd revealed too much. Conrad had people everywhere. If word got back to him that someone matching her description was demonstrating expert financial knowledge. I'm nobody, she whispered. Just the janitor. Excuse me, sir. She walked past him, past the staring executives, past the life she used to have. Behind her, she heard Julian Whitmore say one word. Wait. But Simone didn't wait. She couldn't. Because if she stopped, If she let herself hope for even 1 second that maybe, just maybe, someone might actually see her again, she would break. And she couldn't afford to break. Not when Brianna was depending on her. She reached the service elevator and pressed the button with shaking fingers. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of Julian Whitmore standing in the hallway, staring after her like he'd just seen a ghost. Which, in a way, he had. Have you ever had to hide who you really are just to survive? Have you ever felt invisible in a room full of people who once valued you? Simone's story is just beginning, and what happens next will change everything. If you want to see how a woman who lost everything fights her way back, subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever met someone who surprised you completely? Tell us about it. Simone didn't sleep that night. She sat in her tiny apartment, watching Brianna's chest rise and fall in the narrow bed they shared, and wondered if she'd just destroyed everything. The apartment was barely 400 square feet. One room that served as bedroom, living room, and kitchen. A bathroom so small she had to angle herself to close the door. The walls were thin enough that she could hear the couple next door arguing in Spanish, could hear the baby 3 doors down crying at all hours. But it was safe. Anonymous. A place where Conrad Hayes would never think to look for the woman who used to wear Valentino and drive a Tesla. Her phone buzzed. The hospital again. Brianna's medication was running out. The prescription cost $300. Simone had $72 in her bank account and payday was 5 days away. She pulled her laptop from under the bed, the one luxury she'd allowed herself. Used, battered, but functional. For 7 years, she'd been collecting evidence against Conrad. Bank records. Emails. Trading patterns. She'd hacked systems she wasn't supposed to access, followed money trails through offshore accounts, built a case that would destroy him. But it wasn't complete yet. She needed more time. And now she'd opened her mouth and revealed herself to Julian Whitmore. At 6 a.m. she got Brianna ready for school. Her daughter was small for 10, with eyes too old for her face and a smile that could break Simone's heart. Brianna never complained. Not about their apartment, not about eating cereal for dinner 3 nights a week, not about the fact that she'd never met her grandparents or had a birthday party or been to Disney World like other kids. "Mama, you look tired," Brianna said, touching Simone's face with small fingers. "I'm fine, baby. Just a long night at work. Do you think maybe someday we could get a bigger place? With 2 bedrooms? Someday, Simone promised, even though someday felt impossible. You just focus on being 10 and doing your homework, okay? After dropping Brianna at school, Simone took 3 buses to reach the storage unit where she kept the remnants of her old life. Inside the small metal box were her diplomas, her awards, a single photograph of her parents, and one red dress she'd worn to her first board meeting at Goldman Sachs. She never looked at these things. Couldn't afford the luxury of remembering. But today her hands found the photograph. Her mother, Dr. Patricia Patterson, had been a mathematics professor. Her father, Thomas, a civil engineer. Both gone now, killed by a drunk driver 6 years ago, never knowing what had happened to their brilliant daughter, never meeting their granddaughter. The grief was a constant weight. Her phone rang. A known number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her press the green button. Simone Patterson? The voice was female, professional, crisp. "This is Jennifer Chan, executive assistant to Julian Whitmore. Mr. Whitmore would like to meet with you this afternoon at 2 p.m. A car will pick you up at the address you have on file with Whitmore Industries." "I don't think that's." Mr. Whitmore insists. "He's offering you a consulting position. The pay is $10,000 for a 2-hour meeting. The car will arrive at 1:45 p.m. Please be ready." The line went dead. $10,000. 2 hours. Simone sat on the floor of the storage unit and did something she rarely allowed herself to do. She cried. Because $10,000 was Brianna's medication for 8 months. It was catching up on rent. It was maybe, possibly, hopefully a chance to finish gathering the evidence against Conrad and finally end this nightmare. The car that arrived at 1:45 p.m. was a black Mercedes with leather seats that probably cost more than Simone made in a year. The driver, an older man with kind eyes, opened the door without comment on her thrift store jeans and faded jacket. He drove her to Whitmore Tower, not to the service entrance where she usually entered, but to the main lobby with its soaring ceilings and marble everything. Jennifer Chan met her there. She was impeccably dressed in a green suit, her dark hair pulled into a perfect bun. If she thought anything about Simone's appearance, she didn't show it. "Mr. Whitmore is waiting in conference room A. This way, please." The conference room could have held 50 people. Instead, it held 1. Julian Whitmore stood at the window, hands in the pockets of charcoal gray pants, white shirt open at the collar. He turned when Simone entered, and she saw the same look in his eyes as last night. Hunger. Curiosity. Something else she couldn't name. Simone. Thank you for coming. He gestured to a chair at the massive table. Please sit. She sat. He sat across from her, not at the head of the table but close enough that she could see he hadn't slept either. There were shadows under his blue eyes. I had my team check what you said last night about the Hartman merger. He slid a tablet across the table. Everything you said was correct. The subsidiary debts. The CEO selling shares. The overvaluation. How did you know? I read, Simone said carefully. Public records. SEC filings. It's not hard if you know where to look. Right. Public records. Julian leaned back, studying her. Simone, I'm going to be direct. I spent the entire night researching you. I know you're using your real first name, but that Patterson isn't the name on your work application. I know you're overqualified to be cleaning floors. I know you're hiding from something or someone. I don't know the details and I'm not asking for them. What I am asking is this. Will you help me? Help you with what? With everything. My company is worth $18 billion, but I'm about to make a mistake that could cost us half of that. You saw it in 30 seconds. I have 50 analysts who missed it entirely. That means one of two things. Either you're the smartest person I've ever met, or my entire team is incompetent. I'm betting on the former. So here's what I'm offering. $10,000 today for 2 hours of your time. If you can save the Hartman deal, I'll pay you $100,000 as a consulting fee. If you can't save it but can help me exit gracefully, $50,000. No strings. No publicity. Complete privacy. You can say no and walk out of here right now and I'll never bother you again. But if you say yes, I'll give you every resource you need. Simone's heart hammered against her ribs. $100,000 would change everything. She could pay off Brianna's medical bills. She could finish her investigation of Conrad. She could possibly begin to build a real life again. But it was dangerous. Working with Julian Whitmore meant visibility. It meant being in rooms with powerful people. It meant the risk that Conrad would hear about it. I need complete anonymity, she said. No photos. No press. My name doesn't appear in any documents. Done. I work remotely when possible. Agreed. And I need my first payment today. Before I start. Julian pulled out his phone, typed something, and 30 seconds later Simone's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. A notification from her bank. A deposit of $15,000. You said 10,000, she whispered. I said 10. I'm paying 15 because you needed it yesterday, and I should have offered more to begin with. Consider the extra 5,000 a signing bonus. Julian stood, walked to a cabinet and pulled out a folder. Here's everything we have on Hartman. Take it home. Review it tonight. Come back tomorrow and tell me whether we move forward, restructure, or walk away. Can you do that? Simone took the folder. Her hands were shaking again, but this time not from fear. From hope. Dangerous, terrifying hope. I can do that. Good. Julian smiled, and for the first time she saw something genuine in his expression. Warmth. Simone, I don't know what you're running from and I respect your privacy. But I want you to know something. Whatever help you need, whatever resources would make your life easier, you just have to ask. I'm not trying to buy you. I'm trying to invest in you. There's a difference. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Why do you care? Because last night when everyone else was laughing you told me the truth. In my world that's rarer than diamonds. You walked her to the door. Jennifer will arrange transportation for you whenever you need it. Same driver. His name is Howard and he's completely trustworthy. See you tomorrow, Simone. That night, after Brianna was asleep, Simone opened the Hartman file. Within an hour she knew exactly what needed to be done. Within 2 hours she drafted a 30-page analysis. Within 3 she created a restructuring proposal that would not only save the merger but potentially double its value. She looked at her sleeping daughter and whispered, maybe we're going to be okay. For the first time in 7 years she almost believed it. Julian Whitmore couldn't stop thinking about the janitor. He sat in his penthouse apartment, nursing a scotch he didn't want, staring at a view of the city that usually thrilled him. Tonight it all felt hollow. Because somewhere out there was a woman brilliant enough to dismantle his entire business strategy in 2 minutes, and she was scrubbing toilets. He pulled up the file his head of security had compiled. The official story was simple. Simone Patterson, age 33, hired 8 months ago through a temp agency. References checked out. Background check was clean. Nothing remarkable. Except everything about her was remarkable. Julian had built his fortune by reading people. It was his gift, the thing that separated him from every other rich kid who'd inherited daddy's company. He could look at someone and know what they wanted, what they feared, what would make them loyal or make them betray. And when he looked at Simone, he saw layers of pain and intelligence and determination that didn't match someone who'd chosen janitorial work. So he'd called in a favor. His old friend Tony Chin ran a private investigation firm that specialized in finding people who didn't want to be found. Tony owed him, and more importantly, Tony was discreet. The file arrived at 4 a.m. Julian read it twice, then sat back in shock. Simone Patterson wasn't just smart. She was legendary. Harvard undergrad, MIT graduate school, both with perfect grades. She'd published 3 papers on algorithmic trading that had revolutionized how hedge funds operated. At 23, Goldman Sachs had offered her a position that usually went to people twice her age. She'd made the firm $800 million in her first year. Then, 7 years ago, she'd been accused of insider trading. The evidence had seemed overwhelming. Trading patterns that matched suspicious information flow. Millions of dollars moving through accounts connected to her. The SEC had investigated. The media had crucified her. And then, suddenly, all charges were dropped. The lead investigator said they'd made a mistake. Goldman Sachs settled quietly. And Simone Patterson disappeared. But Julian knew something about sudden case dismissals and quiet settlements. They happened when someone with enough money and power made them happen. He dug deeper. Found the name that kept appearing in the margins. Conrad Hayes. Investment banker. Millionaire. Married to Simone Patterson for 3 years before the scandal. Divorced her 2 weeks after the charges were dropped. Gained custody of their financial assets in the settlement. Built his own firm using strategies that looked suspiciously similar to Simone's published research. Julian felt rage building in his chest. He knew men like Conrad Hayes. Had dealt with them his entire life. Men who took credit for other people's work. Men who destroyed anyone who threatened them. The file included one more detail. Simone had a daughter. 10 years old. Sole custody. Everything clicked into place. Simone hadn't run because she was guilty. She'd run because someone had framed her and threatened her child. She'd chosen invisibility over fighting back because fighting back meant risking her daughter. Julian made 3 phone calls. The first was to his lawyer. The second was to Tony Chin. The third was to Jennifer. Clear my schedule for the next month, he said. Everything that isn't essential, delegate it. I have a project. When Simone arrived the next afternoon, Julian had transformed conference room A. Gone was the massive, intimidating table. Instead, there were comfortable chairs, a whiteboard, and lunch from the Italian place downtown that he'd heard had the best food. Simone looked different. She was wearing the same thrift store clothes, but she'd pulled her hair back and there was determination in her dark eyes. She carried the Hartman folder like it contained gold. I have your analysis, she said without preamble. The merger can work but not as structured. You need to have lunch with me first. Julian gestured to the food. Please. You can pitch on an empty stomach, but why suffer? She hesitated, then sat. He watched her take the first bite of pasta and saw her eyes close briefly. When had she last eaten a good meal? When had anyone taken care of her? This is amazing, she said quietly. It's just pasta. No, it's not. She looked at him with an intensity that made his breath catch. Thank you. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Simone opened the folder and became someone else entirely. The uncertainty vanished. Her voice grew confident, precise. She walked him through the Hartman analysis like a general planning a battle, pointing out weaknesses and opportunities with equal clarity. The core problem is the integration timeline, she explained, drawing on the whiteboard with quick, efficient strokes. Hartman's infrastructure uses legacy systems that won't mesh with yours for at least 18 months, but your projections assume 6 months. That's where the hidden costs are. But if you acquire the company in stages, taking their most profitable division first and leaving the rest for phase 2, you reduce immediate risk by 60% while maintaining long-term value. Julian listened, fascinated. This wasn't just intelligence. This was artistry. Simone saw patterns and numbers that other people couldn't imagine. What do you need from me to make this work? He asked when she finished. Access to your integration team. 2 weeks. And I need them to trust me, which means you need to introduce me as an official consultant. Done. What else? I need. She stopped, looked away. Nothing else. Simone. Julian moved his chair closer. I'm going to ask you something and I want you to answer honestly. What would make your life easier right now? Not work stuff, life stuff. What do you need? I can't ask you for anything personal. This is business. Why can't you ask? I'm offering. Because people don't just help for no reason. I'm not people. Julian pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. A website for a medical supply company. Your daughter has asthma, right? Moderate to severe? I'm guessing her medication costs more than you can easily afford. I have an account with this company. Let me set you up. Before you argue, consider this. If you're worried about your daughter, you can't focus on work. If you can't focus on work, I don't get the benefit of your brilliant brain. So really, I'm being selfish. Simone stared at the phone. You investigated me. I did. I'm sorry. But I needed to understand who you are. He waited. Will you let me help? Please? The silence stretched. Julian held his breath. If she said no, if she walked away, he'd respect it. But he desperately hoped she wouldn't. Okay, Simone whispered. Yes. Thank you. Relief flooded through him. Good. What else? Better apartment? Car. You take 3 buses to get here, which is ridiculous. Julian, I can't. You can. You're going to be working intense hours for the next 2 weeks. You need to be comfortable. I'm setting up a car service for you. Non-negotiable. And I'm arranging an apartment closer to here. Temporary for the duration of the project. 2 bedrooms, fully furnished. Before you protest, remember that this benefits me. I need you fresh and focused, not exhausted from commuting. Simone's eyes were wet. I don't know what to say. Say yes. That's all. Just say yes to letting someone help you. Yes, she said. Yes. Thank you. I can't. You don't have to say anything else. Julian stood, gave her space. Let's get to work. Tell me about this staged acquisition plan. They worked until midnight. Simone's analysis was flawless. By the time she left, Julian had a strategy that would not only save the Hartman merger but turn it into his most profitable acquisition to date. And he had a new mission. He was going to find out everything about Conrad Hayes. And then he was going to make sure the man never threatened Simone or her daughter again. The apartment Julian arranged was in a safe building with a doorman, hardwood floors, and windows that let in actual sunlight. Simone stood in the middle of the living room, Brianna's hand in hers, and tried not to cry. Mama, is this really ours? Brianna whispered. Just for a while, baby. Just while Mama works on a special project. It's so pretty. Brianna ran to the second bedroom, squealed with delight at the twin bed with its blue comforter. I have my own room. Mama, I have my own room. That night, after Brianna fell asleep in her own bed for the first time in years, Simone sat at the kitchen table and allowed herself one moment of hope. Maybe this could work. Maybe she could do this job, earn enough money to finish her case against Conrad, and disappear again before anyone noticed. The next morning, Jennifer delivered a package. Inside were clothes. Professional clothes in Simone's size. 3 suits in bright colors. 1 red, 1 blue, 1 green. Blouses. Shoes that actually fit. A note in Julian's handwriting, you're going to be in meetings with executives. You need to look the part. Consider this a work uniform. Simone put on the red suit. It fit perfectly. She looked in the mirror and saw someone she used to be. Someone confident. Someone who belonged in boardrooms. The transformation was terrifying and thrilling in equal measure. At Whitmore Industries, Julian introduced her to his executive team as Dr. Simone Patterson, special financial consultant. No one questioned it. If Julian Whitmore said she was valuable, she was valuable. The first meeting was with the integration team. 10 people, mostly men, mostly skeptical. The lead integrator, Tom Bradford, a white man in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes, looked at her like she was an inconvenience. We've been working on Hartman for 6 months, he said. We don't need a consultant telling us our business. Then you won't mind me confirming what you already know, Simone replied calmly. She pulled up her presentation on the screen. Let's start with timeline. You're projecting full integration in 6 months. But Hartman's payroll system was built in 1997 and hasn't been updated since. Your systems were implemented 3 years ago. They're not compatible. So unless you're planning to manually input data for 4,000 employees, that 6-month timeline is impossible. You're looking at 18 months minimum, possibly 24. Tom's face went red. You've accounted for standard integration challenges. But you haven't accounted for the fact that Hartman's IT director quit 2 weeks ago and took the only copy of their system documentation with him. I found that in a single line buried in their HR records. Did your due diligence catch it? Silence. I'll take that as a no. Simone clicked to the next slide. Here's what we're going to do. Phase 1. Acquire their medical device division only. It's profitable, uses modern systems, and can integrate in 4 months. Phase 2. Negotiate to keep Hartman's legacy divisions operating semi-independently for 1 year while we rebuild their infrastructure. Phase 3. Complete integration after proper preparation. This approach reduces upfront cost by 40% and eliminates 80% of integration risk. By the end of the meeting, Tom Bradford was taking notes like a student. The rest of the team looked at Simone with new respect. Julian, who'd watched from the back of the room, caught her eye and smiled. Over the next week, Simone worked 16-hour days. She reviewed every aspect of the Hartman deal, found gaps no one else had noticed, created solutions no one else had imagined. Julian's team went from skeptical to devoted. They started calling her the professor with genuine affection. And Julian himself was always there. Not hovering, not micromanaging, but present. He brought her coffee in the afternoon. Made sure she ate lunch. Drove her home when she worked too late for the car service. One evening, as they left the office at 11 p.m., he said, "You know you don't have to work this hard. I'm already impressed. I'm not doing it to impress you. I'm doing it because it matters." Simone looked at him in the dim light of the parking garage. "Julian, this company, these jobs, they matter to real people. If the Hartman deal fails, 4,000 people lose their livelihoods. I can't let that happen." "You're remarkable," he said quietly. "I hope you know that. I'm just doing my job." "No. You're saving lives. There's a difference." At home, Brianna was thriving. The doorman, Mr. Rodriguez, an older Hispanic man with grandchildren of his own, kept an eye on her after school. The apartment manager's daughter, a teenager named Kelly, babysat when Simone worked late. Brianna had friends at her new school. She'd stopped having nightmares. "Mama, are we going to stay here?" Brianna asked one night. "After your project is done?" Simone's heart broke. "I don't know, baby. Maybe. I hope so. I really like it here. And I like Mr. Whitmore. He's nice." Julian had visited twice, bringing Brianna books and spending time talking to her about school. He'd never once treated her like an inconvenience or acted like his time was too valuable. Instead, he'd sat on the floor and played board games with her, listening to her 10-year-old observations about life with genuine interest. "I like him too," Simone admitted. The third week, everything fell apart. Simone was in the conference room, presenting the final Hartman proposal to Julian's board of directors, when her phone rang. She never answered her phone during meetings, but something made her glance at the screen. A known number. Lagos, Nigeria area code. Her blood went cold. Only one person would call from that number. Conrad's business partner. She excused herself, stepped into the hallway, answered. "Simone." The voice was male, accented, cruel. "Or should I call you the janitor? Did you really think you could work for Julian Whitmore without Conrad finding out? He's very interested in your new career. Very interested in seeing his daughter again too." The world tilted. "You stay away from Brianna. That depends on you. Conrad wants the research you stole. All of it. The codes, the algorithms, everything. You have 48 hours to deliver, or he files for custody. And this time he'll win. You're a fugitive after all. Working under false pretenses. I'm sure a judge would be very interested in that." The line went dead. Simone stood in the hallway, phone in her shaking hand, and felt her carefully constructed world crumbling. She'd been so careful. So cautious. How had Conrad found her? Julian stepped into the hallway. "Simone? You okay?" "The board is waiting." She looked at him. This kind man who'd given her a chance. This man who'd helped her daughter. This man who had no idea he just painted a target on both of them. "I have to quit," she said. "I'm sorry. I have to leave. Right now." What? What happened?" "I can't explain. I have to go. I have to get Brianna and we have to disappear again. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She started toward the elevator. Julian caught her arm, gently but firmly. "Simone, talk to me. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. You can't fix this. No one can. I should never have taken this job. I should never have." Was that Conrad Hayes on the phone? She froze. "How do you know about Conrad?" Julian's face was grim. "Because I've been investigating him since the day after we met. I know what he did to you. I know about the frame job, the custody threats, all of it. And I've been working with a legal team to build a case against him. We're almost there, Simone. We're so close. He's in Lagos. He has resources I can't fight. He's going to take Brianna. Not if I have anything to say about it. Julian pulled out his phone, dialed. Tony? It's Julian. I need a protection detail. 2 guards, best you have, at this address immediately. And I need you to find Conrad Hayes. He's in Lagos. I want eyes on him within the hour. He hung up, looked at Simone. You're not alone anymore. Do you understand? You don't have to fight this by yourself. Julian, you don't understand what you're getting into. Conrad is dangerous. So am I. His blue eyes were steel. When I decide to protect someone, I don't lose. Ever. Now let's go get Brianna and take her somewhere Conrad can't reach. And then we're going to finish what we started. Together. Simone wanted to argue. But looking at Julian's face, at his absolute certainty, she felt something she hadn't felt in 7 years. She felt protected. Okay, she whispered. Together. Julian's somewhere safe turned out to be an estate 2 hours outside the city. The house was massive, surrounded by trees and walls, with security cameras and guards who looked like they'd served in special forces. Brianna thought it was the coolest thing she'd ever seen. Are we in a spy movie? She asked, eyes wide as Mr. Rodriguez, who'd insisted on coming along, helped her out of the car. Something like that, kiddo? Julian knelt down to her level. Brianna, I need you to stay inside this house for a few days while your mom and I work on some grown-up stuff. Is that okay? There's a pool, a game room, and a whole library of books. Plus, Mr. Rodriguez and Miss Jennifer are going to stay with you. Like a vacation? Brianna looked at her mother. Mama, is everything okay? Simone hugged her daughter. Everything's going to be okay, baby. I promise. That night, after Brianna was asleep in a bedroom bigger than their old apartment, Simone and Julian sat in the study. A fire crackled in the fireplace. Outside, security walked the perimeter. Tell me everything, Julian said. I need to know the whole story. So Simone told him. About meeting Conrad at Goldman Sachs. About marrying him after a whirlwind 6-month romance. About trusting him with her research, her strategies, her heart. About coming home one day to find FBI agents at her door, accusing her of crimes she didn't commit. About watching Conrad testify against her, his face showing concern while his eyes showed triumph. He'd stolen everything, she said, staring into the fire. My research, my reputation, my career. The judge said I could keep custody of Brianna only if I agreed to never work in finance again, to never speak publicly about the case, to essentially disappear. Conrad had powerful friends. Friends who made sure the investigation went his way. I had 2 choices, fight back and risk losing Brianna or vanish. So I vanished. But you've been gathering evidence, Julian said. For 7 years. Every spare moment. I've tracked his trades, his accounts, his communications. He's been using my algorithms to make millions. Illegal trades. Money laundering. Everything. I have enough to bury him, but I needed just a little more. Hard evidence of the frame job itself. Proof that he bribed the investigators. I was so close. You still are. Julian pulled out a laptop. My investigator Tony found something. Conrad's former assistant, a woman named Helen Martinez. She approached Tony 3 days ago. Said she's been waiting years for someone to take Conrad down. She has copies of emails showing the bribery. Recorded conversations. Everything we need. Hope flared in Simone's chest. Why would she help us? Because Conrad destroyed her career too when she threatened to expose him. She's been working as a paralegal in Lagos, waiting for her chance. Tony's bringing her here tomorrow. Simone covered her face with her hands. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to thank me. Julian moved to sit beside her on the couch. Simone, I need you to understand something. I'm not doing this because you're valuable to my company, although you are. I'm doing this because what Conrad did to you is wrong. Because you deserve justice. Because your daughter deserves to grow up with a mother who doesn't have to hide. But why do you care so much? You barely know me. Julian was quiet for a long moment. My mother was a legal secretary when she met my father. He was rich, charming, powerful. Swept her off her feet. Then after I was born he showed his true colors. Abusive. Controlling. He told her she was nothing without him. Told her she'd never see me again if she left. She believed him for years. What happened? My grandmother, my mother's mother, died and left Mom a small inheritance. Enough to hire a good lawyer. We got out. But it took years and it nearly destroyed her. Julian looked at Simone. When I see someone being crushed by someone more powerful, someone being told they're nothing when they're everything, I can't walk away. I won't. Simone felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't know what to say. Say you trust me. That's all I need. I trust you. They sat in silence watching the fire. Julian's hand found hers and she didn't pull away. The next afternoon, Helen Martinez arrived. She was a small Hispanic woman in her 40s, nervous but determined. She carried 3 thumb drives and a folder of documents. I've been waiting for this day, she told Simone. Conrad destroyed you and he destroyed me. He's destroyed a lot of people. It's time someone stopped him. They spent the next 3 days going through everything. Helen's evidence was perfect. Emails showing Conrad bribing SEC investigators. Recorded conversations where he admitted framing Simone. Financial records proving he'd stolen her research and used it illegally. Combined with Simone's 7 years of documentation, they had a case that was absolutely airtight. We need to decide how to proceed, Julian's lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia O'Brien, said during a strategy meeting. We can take this to the FBI, but that will take time. Or we can go public, use media pressure to force immediate action. Public, Simone said immediately. Conrad thrives in shadows. We drag him into the light. That means you'll be public too, Julian warned. Your name, your story, everything. I know. Simone looked at him. I'm done hiding. Brianna deserves better than a mother who's afraid. I'm ready to fight. Julian smiled. Then we fight. That evening, Simone found Julian in the game room, playing cards with Brianna. Her daughter was laughing, genuinely happy in a way Simone hadn't seen in years. I won again. Brianna crowed. Mr. Whitmore, you're really bad at Go Fish. I am devastatingly bad, Julian agreed solemnly. You're clearly the champion. Mama? Brianna ran to Simone. Did you know Mr. Whitmore never played Go Fish before? He's an adult and he never played it. Isn't that sad? Very sad, Simone agreed. We should teach him more games. Can we play Uno tomorrow? We'll see, baby. After Brianna went to bed, Julian walked Simone back to her room. They stood in the hallway, neither quite ready to say goodnight. Thank you for playing with her, Simone said. You didn't have to. I wanted to. She's a great kid. Smart like her mom. Julian, when this is over, when Conrad is dealt with, I need to think about what comes next. For me and Brianna. I can't keep working at your company. It's not fair to you. People will talk. They'll say you hired me because you're brilliant? Because you saved my company millions of dollars? Because you're the best financial mind I've ever encountered. Julian stepped closer. Simone, I don't care what people say. I want you at Whitmore Industries. As Chief Financial Officer. Full salary, full benefits, full everything. Not as a favor. As the smartest business decision I've ever made. Julian? Don't answer now. Just think about it. Think about what you want, not what you think you deserve. There's a difference. He touched her cheek gently, then walked away, leaving Simone standing in the hallway with her heart pounding. That night, for the first time in 7 years, Simone allowed herself to dream about a future that wasn't defined by fear. Are you rooting for Simone? Do you think she and Julian will expose Conrad? Sometimes the people who've been knocked down the hardest fight back the strongest. If you're invested in seeing how this story unfolds, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between fighting back and protecting someone you love? What did you choose? The morning they planned to expose Conrad Hayes, Simone woke before dawn. She found Julian already awake, sitting on the patio with coffee and his laptop. Couldn't sleep either? She asked. Too much adrenaline. He poured her a cup of coffee. Patricia wants to hold a press conference at noon. We'll release the evidence to major news outlets simultaneously. FBI is already briefed and ready to move. By tonight, Conrad will be arrested. Simone sat beside him. I keep thinking about all the years I spent hiding. All the times I wanted to fight back but was too afraid. What if I'd done this years ago? Then you wouldn't have been ready. You wouldn't have had all the evidence. Sometimes waiting isn't weakness, Simone. Sometimes it's strategy. Julian turned to look at her. Are you scared? Terrified. But also ready. More than ready. At 10 a.m. they drove back to the city. Brianna stayed at the estate with Mr. Rodriguez and Jennifer, protected by a full security team. Simone wore the red suit Julian had given her. She looked in the mirror and saw a warrior. The press conference was held at Whitmore Industries. The main conference hall was packed with reporters. Julian stood at the podium first. Thank you all for coming. Today we're exposing a crime that has gone unpunished for 7 years. A crime that destroyed an innocent woman's career and life. A crime committed by Conrad Hayes, currently residing in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm going to let Dr. Simone Patterson tell you her story. And then we're going to show you the evidence. Simone stepped up to the podium. Cameras flashed. Microphones bristled. For a moment she felt the old fear trying to pull her back down. Then she thought of Brianna, of all the nights her daughter had fallen asleep wondering why their life was so hard. She thought of every woman who'd ever been silenced by a powerful man. She began to speak. 7 years ago I was accused of insider trading. The evidence against me seemed overwhelming. I lost my job, my reputation, my career. My husband, Conrad Hayes, testified against me. And then, mysteriously, all charges were dropped. The prosecutors said they'd made a mistake. I was ordered to never work in finance again, to stay silent, to disappear. And I did because I had a daughter to protect. She clicked to the first slide. What I didn't tell anyone was that I'd been gathering evidence. Evidence that Conrad Hayes had framed me. Evidence that he'd stolen my research and used it to build his own fortune. Evidence that he'd bribed SEC investigators and federal prosecutors to make the case against me go away once it served his purpose. The room was silent. She clicked through slide after slide, showing email after email, financial record after financial record. Helen Martinez was there too, confirming everything. Patricia O'Brien presented the legal case. Tony Chin presented the investigation findings. It was devastating, comprehensive, irrefutable. By noon, the story was on every major news channel. By 1 p.m., the FBI had issued an arrest warrant. By 2 p.m., Nigerian authorities had Conrad Hayes in custody, preparing for extradition. By 3 p.m., Simone Patterson was vindicated. The phone call started immediately. Goldman Sachs called to apologize and offer her old job back. 3 other firms offered her positions. News outlets wanted interviews. Her old professors from MIT called to congratulate her. Julian stood beside her through all of it, a steady presence. When it got overwhelming, when the tears finally came, he was there. You did it, he said quietly. You won. We did it, Simone corrected. I couldn't have done this without you. That evening they returned to the estate. Brianna ran to meet them, Mr. Rodriguez right behind her. Mama. Everyone's talking about you on TV. They said you're a hero. Simone scooped up her daughter. I'm not a hero, baby. I just told the truth. Mr. Rodriguez says that's what heroes do. Later, after Brianna was asleep, Simone and Julian walked through the gardens. The night was clear, stars bright overhead. What happens now? Julian asked. I don't know. For 7 years, everything was about survival. About hiding. About gathering evidence. Now that it's over, I don't know who I am anymore. You're Simone Patterson. Brilliant financial strategist. Amazing mother. Survivor. Fighter. Julian stopped walking, turned to face her. And if you're interested, you're also my chief financial officer. The offer stands. Full salary, full control of your department, full autonomy. You'd be saving me from making terrible decisions and making us both very rich in the process. Julian, I don't want people to think. I don't care what people think. I care about what's right. And what's right is having the best financial mind in the country working for my company. That's you. So please say yes. Simone looked at this man who'd risked everything to help her. This man who'd protected her daughter. This man who'd believed in her when she'd stopped believing in herself. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll take the job. Thank you. Julian's smile could have lit the entire garden. Thank God. I was worried I'd have to beg. You kind of did beg. I did, didn't I? Completely undignified. Worth it though. They walked back to the house in comfortable silence. At the door, Julian touched her hand. Simone, there's something else I need to tell you. What? I'm falling for you. Have been since that first night when you called me out on the Hartman merger. I know this is complicated. I know you've been through hell. I know you probably need time. But I wanted you to know. Because I don't want to build our professional relationship on secrets. Simone's heart hammered. Julian? You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. He squeezed her hand gently. Good night, Simone. He went inside, leaving her standing under the stars, her whole world shifting once again. But this time the shift felt like hope. The media storm continued for 2 weeks. Every news outlet wanted Simone's story. Magazine profiles. Podcast interviews. A publisher offered her a book deal. Hollywood called about movie rights. Julian helped her navigate all of it, never pushing, always advising. Patricia O'Brien became not just her lawyer but her friend, helping her sort through opportunities and protecting her from predators who saw her story as something to exploit. Conrad Hayes was extradited to the United States. The charges against him were extensive: fraud, bribery, obstruction of justice, theft of intellectual property. He hired expensive lawyers, tried to fight back, but the evidence was overwhelming. His firm collapsed. His investors fled. His reputation was destroyed. One afternoon, Simone received a visitor at Whitmore Industries. A woman in her 60s, elegant in a blue dress, with kind eyes. "Dr. Patterson? My name is Margaret Whitmore, Julian's mother." Simone stood, shook her hand. "Mrs. Whitmore. It's lovely to meet you. Please call me Margaret. I had to come meet the woman my son can't stop talking about." Margaret sat, studied Simone with the same intensity her son had. "He tells me you saved his company. I helped with one merger. That's all." "That's not all. Julian tells me you're the smartest person he's ever met. Coming from him, that's high praise. My son doesn't admire people easily. He's been very kind to me." "Kind?" Margaret smiled. "Is that what we're calling it? Dr. Patterson, I'm going to be direct. My son is in love with you. Has been for weeks. He's trying to be professional, trying to give you space, but I've never seen him like this. And I wanted to meet you to see if you're worthy of him." Simone's breath caught. "Am I being interrogated?" "A little bit. But I already have my answer." Margaret leaned forward. "You're worthy. More than worthy. You're exactly what he needs. Someone who doesn't need him but chooses him. Anyway, someone with their own strength. Someone who understands what it's like to fight for what matters." "Mrs. Whitmore, Margaret, I don't know what to say. Julian and I were colleagues. We're friends. But anything more is terrifying. I understand. After what Conrad did to you, trusting another man must feel impossible. But I want you to know something about my son. When Julian decides someone matters to him, he's loyal to the death. He doesn't lie. He doesn't manipulate. He doesn't take credit for other people's work. He's nothing like the man who hurt you. I know that. I do. But I have Brianna to think about. She's been through so much. I can't bring someone into her life unless I'm absolutely certain. That's exactly what a good mother says." Margaret stood. "I've taken enough of your time. But I wanted you to know, my son would be lucky to have you. And I would be honored to call you family." After Margaret left, Simone sat at her desk, staring at the city below. Her phone buzzed. A text from Julian: "My mother just left. Whatever she said, I didn't put her up to it. She's a meddler. Ignore her." Simone smiled, typed back, "She's lovely. Like her son." Julian's response came immediately: "Coffee? Need to discuss Q3 projections." They met in his office. For an hour they talked business. Simone had restructured the entire finance department, brought in new talent, implemented systems that had increased efficiency by 30%. The Hartman merger was proceeding perfectly on her revised timeline. Whitmore Industries' stock price had risen 12%. "You're making me look good," Julian said. "I'm making your company profitable." "Different thing. You're also making me happy." He said it casually, but his eyes were serious. "I know my mother came to see you. I know she probably said something embarrassing about my feelings. I'm sorry if that made you uncomfortable." "She didn't make me uncomfortable. She made me think." "About?" Simone set down her coffee. "About what I want. For the first time in 7 years, I can think about want instead of just survival. And what I'm realizing is that I want more than just a job. I want a life. I want Brianna to see her mother happy. I want to stop being afraid of happiness." "What does that mean?" Julian's voice was careful, hopeful. "It means I need time. Not because I don't care about you. I do. More than I expected. But because I need to be sure. For Brianna's sake and mine. I need to know that this is real, not just gratitude or trauma bonding or—" "I understand." Julian stood, came around the desk. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. But Simone, I need you to know, this is real. I've never been more certain of anything." They stood close, close enough that Simone could see flecks of gold in his blue eyes. Close enough to feel the warmth of him. "Give me 3 months, she said. 3 months of working together, of being friends, of letting Brianna get to know you without pressure. Then we'll see where we are." "Done." Julian smiled. "But I'm warning you, I'm very good at being patient when it matters." Over the next weeks they fell into a rhythm. Work during the day, collaborative and professional. Evenings sometimes spent together, but always with Brianna present. Julian never pushed, never demanded. He showed up. He was present. He was steady. And slowly Simone felt her walls coming down. They had dinner at Julian's penthouse one evening. Brianna was enchanted by the view, the space, the luxury. But what she talked about most on the drive home was how Julian had listened to her talk about her science project for 20 minutes without once checking his phone. "I like him, Mama," Brianna said. "He's nice. Really nice. Not fake nice." "I know, baby. Do you like him?" "Yes, I do." "Good. Because I think he likes us too. The real us, not the hiding us." Out of the mouths of 10-year-olds came truth. The case against Conrad Hayes proceeded. He tried to plea bargain, but the prosecution refused. The trial was set for 3 months away. Patricia assured Simone it was a slam dunk. "He's going to prison for a long time," Patricia said. "Long enough that you and Brianna will be safe. Long enough that he'll never hurt anyone again." At night, Simone worked on her book. Not a memoir, but a guide for other women in finance. How to protect your work. How to recognize manipulation. How to fight back when someone tries to steal your reputation. She wrote it for every woman who'd ever been told she was nothing by someone who feared her power. And sometimes late at night she let herself think about Julian. About his smile. His kindness. The way he looked at her like she was precious. The way he loved her daughter without reservation. 3 months she'd asked for. But she was starting to think she might not need that long. The trial of Conrad Hayes began on a cold November morning. Simone sat in the courtroom, Julian beside her, Patricia on her other side. The gallery was packed with journalists and supporters. Women who'd been following her story. Financial professionals who'd been inspired by her comeback. Students from MIT and Harvard who saw her as a hero. Conrad was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He'd aged badly in 6 months. His face was gaunt, his hair graying. When he saw Simone, something flickered in his eyes. Fear. Good. The prosecution was led by Samantha Torres, a fierce Puerto Rican woman who'd made her name prosecuting white-collar crime. She was brilliant and relentless. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, "this case is about theft. Not just theft of money, though there's plenty of that. But theft of something more valuable, a woman's life. Conrad Hayes stole Dr. Simone Patterson's research, her reputation, her career, and 7 years of her life. And he did it all for profit." Over 5 days the prosecution presented their case. Helen Martinez testified, her voice strong and clear. Tony Chin presented his investigation findings. Financial experts showed how Conrad had used Simone's algorithms illegally. FBI agents testified about the bribery. And then Simone took the stand. "Dr. Patterson," Samantha said, "tell us about the day you realized your husband had framed you." Simone looked at Conrad. He wouldn't meet her eyes. "I came home to find FBI agents at my door. They said I was under investigation for insider trading. I was confused because I'd never done anything illegal. Then they showed me evidence. Trading patterns that matched. Suspicious information flow. But the patterns weren't mine. They were Conrad's. He'd used my research, my methods, but applied them to his own trades. Then he'd manipulated the evidence to make it look like I'd done it. How did that make you feel?" "Betrayed. Terrified. But mostly angry. Angry that the man I'd trusted with everything could destroy me so casually." "Why didn't you fight back immediately?" "Because he threatened to take my daughter. He had powerful friends. Expensive lawyers. I was alone. So I made a choice. I chose Brianna over my career. I chose her safety over my reputation. And I spent 7 years gathering evidence so that one day, I could make sure he never hurt anyone again." When Simone stepped down, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Conrad's defense was weak. His lawyers tried to claim Simone was lying, that she'd stolen from him, that this was all revenge for a bad marriage. But the evidence was too strong. The witnesses too credible. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted in applause. The judge banged her gavel for order. Conrad's face crumpled. His lawyers looked defeated. Outside, Simone faced a wall of cameras and microphones. Julian stood beside her, steady as always. "Dr. Patterson, how does it feel to have justice?" "It feels like freedom," she said simply. "For 7 years I've been in hiding. Today I can stop hiding. Today I can finally breathe. What's next for you?" "I'm going back to work. I'm going to keep doing what I love. And I'm going to help other women who've been silenced. No one should have to choose between their career and their safety. No one should have to spend years gathering evidence just to prove they were telling the truth all along." That evening, Julian threw a small celebration at his penthouse. Patricia, Helen, Tony, Margaret, and a few close friends from Whitmore Industries. Brianna was there too, wearing a pretty green dress and eating cake like it was her job. Speech, someone called. Simone stood, looked around at these people who'd become her family. I'm not good at speeches. But I need to say this. 6 months ago I was cleaning floors. I was invisible. I'd convinced myself that invisibility was safety. And then Julian asked me a question. He asked it as a joke, to mock me, to entertain his friends. But that question changed my life. She looked at Julian, who was watching her with soft eyes. He didn't just give me a job. He gave me back myself. He reminded me that I was more than my fear. He helped me fight back. And he did it all without asking for anything in return. So thank you, Julian. For seeing me when I was invisible. For believing in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. Julian crossed the room, stood in front of her. Simone, I have something to ask you. The room went quiet. I know we said 3 months. I know we were taking things slow. But I can't wait anymore. He dropped to one knee and Simone's breath caught. I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. That's too fast and you deserve slow and careful. But I am asking you to be my partner. My real partner. In business and in life. I'm asking you to build something with me. Something that's not about what we lost or what we survived, but about what we can create together. What do you say? Simone looked at this man on his knee. This man who'd saved her. This man who her daughter loved. This man who made her laugh and challenged her mind and saw every part of her and didn't flinch. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll be your partner. The room exploded in cheers. Brianna ran to them, wrapping her arms around both of them. Margaret was crying. Patricia was grinning. And for the first time in 7 years, Simone felt complete. Moving into her new house felt surreal. Not an apartment, but an actual house. 3 bedrooms in a safe neighborhood with good schools. A backyard where Brianna could play. Space to breathe. Julian had helped her find it, but he'd insisted she buy it with her own money. You earned this, he'd said. Your salary, your work. This is yours, not mine. Simone's salary as CFO was substantial. 6 figures plus bonuses plus stock options. For the first time in her adult life, she had financial security that didn't depend on a man. It felt incredible. She decorated Brianna's room first. Pink walls because that's what her daughter wanted. A canopy bed. Bookshelves full of new books. A desk for homework. Everything a 10-year-old could want. Mama, is this real? Brianna asked, sitting on her new bed. Are we really going to stay here? Yes, baby. This is our home. Forever. And Mr. Whitmore, is he going to be part of our family? Simone sat beside her daughter. Would you like that? Yeah, I really would. He makes you happy. And he listens to me. And he brought me that science kit without me even asking. He's nice, Mama. Really, really nice. He is. And yes, he's going to be part of our family. If that's okay with you. Brianna hugged her. It's very okay. At work, Simone transformed Whitmore Industries. She restructured the entire financial department, implemented new systems, brought in diverse talent. The company's profits soared. Within 3 months, they'd exceeded their annual targets. Julian's board of directors went from skeptical to devoted. At a board meeting in December, the chairman, an older white man named George Peterson, stood up. I want to go on record, he said, that hiring Dr. Patterson was the smartest decision this company has ever made. In 6 months, she's increased our efficiency, our profits, and our reputation. I propose we offer her a 10-year contract with full profit sharing. The vote was unanimous. Simone wore the red suit to that meeting. She stood at the head of the table, looking at these powerful men and women who now respected her, and felt a surge of pride. Thank you, she said. I accept. And I promise you won't regret it. After the meeting, Julian caught her in the hallway. 10-year contract. That's a long time. Are you complaining? Complaining? I'm celebrating. Now I know you'll be around to save me from my own bad ideas for at least a decade. They'd been dating officially for 2 months now. Slow, careful dating. Dinners. Movies. Long walks. Conversations that lasted until 2 a.m. They hadn't even kissed yet. Julian was letting her set the pace, never pushing, always patient. But tonight, standing in the empty hallway with city lights glowing through the windows, something shifted. Julian, Simone said quietly, I'm ready. Ready for what? To stop being careful. To stop holding back. To just be with you. His eyes widened. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He stepped closer, cupped her face with gentle hands. I love you, Simone. I've loved you since that first night when you told me my merger was garbage. I love your brilliant mind. I love your strength. I love how you love your daughter. I love everything about you. I love you too, she whispered. So much it scares me. But I'm done being scared. Their first kiss was soft, sweet, perfect. It tasted like hope and new beginnings and everything good in the world. That Christmas was the best Simone had ever known. She hosted dinner at her new house. Brianna, Julian, Margaret, Patricia, Helen, Tony, Mr. Rodriguez, Jennifer. All the people who'd helped her, who'd believed in her, who'd become her family. They ate turkey and laughed and told stories. Brianna opened presents and squealed with delight. Julian helped cook and didn't complain when he burned the rolls. Margaret told embarrassing stories about Julian as a child. Everyone was happy. After dinner, when Brianna was playing with her new toys, Julian pulled Simone outside to the backyard. I have something for you, he said. Julian, you already gave me presents. This is different. He handed her a small box. Not a ring box but close. Inside was a key. What's this? A key to my penthouse. I'm not asking you to move in. Not yet. But I want you to know you always have a place there. That you're always welcome. That my home is your home whenever you want it. Simone's eyes filled with tears. That's the sweetest thing anyone's ever given me. I'm just getting started. I plan to spend the rest of my life giving you sweet things. If you'll let me. I'll let you. They kissed under the stars, surrounded by the sound of laughter from inside, and Simone thought about how far she'd come. From scrubbing floors to CFO. From invisible to seen. From broken to whole. No, not whole. She'd always been whole. She just hadn't been able to see it. But now she could. Spring brought new challenges and new triumphs. Simone published her book, Invisible No More, A Woman's Guide to Protecting Your Power in Finance. It became an instant bestseller. She did a book tour, speaking at universities and corporations, inspiring thousands of women. The movie rights sold for a ridiculous amount of money. Simone used half of it to establish a scholarship fund for women in STEM. The other half went into a trust for Brianna's education. At Whitmore Industries, Simone's reputation as a genius was cemented. Other companies tried to poach her with massive offers. She turned them all down. Why stay? One recruiter asked. You could name your price anywhere. Because I'm building something here, Simone said. Something that matters. And I'm building it with people I trust. Julian's love for her deepened with every passing day. He learned her coffee order, her favorite foods, the way she liked her space when she was stressed. He showed up for Brianna's school events, cheering louder than any other parent. He became not just Simone's partner but Brianna's father figure. One Saturday in April they took Brianna to the park. She ran ahead, playing on the swings, while Simone and Julian walked hand in hand. I've been thinking, Julian said. About the future. What about it? About our future. Yours, mine, Brianna's. I know we've been taking things slow, but Simone, I don't want slow anymore. I want all of it. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to have breakfast with you and Brianna. I want to be there for bedtime stories and homework help and every moment in between. Simone's heart raced. What are you saying? I'm saying move in with me. Or I'll move in with you. I don't care which. I just want us to be a family. A real family. Will you think about it? I don't need to think about it, Simone said. Yes. Let's be a family. Julian swept her into his arms, spun her around. Brianna saw from the swings and came running. What's happening? Why are you spinning, Mama? Because your mama just agreed to live with me, Julian said. What do you think about that, kiddo? Brianna's eyes went wide. Really? We're going to live with you? If that's okay with you. That's so okay. That's the most okay thing ever. Brianna hugged them both. Does this mean you're going to be my dad? Julian knelt down to her level. I'd be honored to be your dad. If you want me to be. I want that. I really, really want that. They moved into Julian's penthouse that summer. Brianna got her own room, which she decorated with help from Margaret. Simone and Julian shared the master suite. They created a life together that was beautiful and normal and everything Simone had once thought impossible. Margaret became the grandmother Brianna had never known. She took her shopping, taught her to bake, told her stories about Julian's childhood. Patricia became Aunt Patricia, always available for advice and support. Helen stayed in touch, visiting often, proud of what she'd helped make possible. Conrad Hayes was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Simone didn't attend the sentencing. She'd said everything she needed to say during the trial. Now he was just someone from her past, someone who no longer had any power over her life. At work, Simone continued to excel. She and Julian made a formidable team. He had vision and charisma. She had analytical genius and strategic thinking. Together, they transformed Whitmore Industries into one of the most successful companies in the country. One evening in August, after a particularly successful board meeting, they stood on the penthouse balcony watching the sunset. "Do you ever think about that night?" Julian asked. "When I asked you for financial advice as a joke?" "All the time. I was such an idiot." "You were. But you learned." "I learned that the most important people are often the ones everyone overlooks." He turned to face her. "Simone, I have something to ask you." "Another question?" "You're full of questions. This is the most important one." He pulled out a small box and Simone's breath caught. "I know I said I wasn't asking you to marry me that night at the celebration. But it's been almost a year now. A year of loving you. A year of being amazed by you. A year of being grateful every single day that I asked a stupid question to a woman who wasn't afraid to answer honestly." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, a simple band with a single diamond. "Beautiful. Perfect. Simone Patterson, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that I see you, I value you, I love you? Will you be my wife?" Simone looked at this man who'd saved her. This man who'd given her back her life. This man who loved her daughter like his own. This man who made her laugh and challenged her mind and stood beside her as an equal partner. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on her finger, and they kissed as the sun set over the city, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink in perfect hope. The wedding was small and perfect. 50 people in the garden of Julian's estate. Brianna was the flower girl, wearing a beautiful blue dress and a smile that could light the world. Margaret cried happy tears. Patricia served as Simone's maid of honor. Tony walked Simone down the aisle, standing in for the father she'd lost. Simone wore white, simple and elegant, with her natural hair flowing free. Julian wore a dark blue suit that made his eyes even bluer. When they said their vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. "I promise to see you," Julian said. "Always. Even on the days you feel invisible. I promise to stand beside you, not in front of you or behind you. I promise to love your daughter as my own. I promise to never take credit for your brilliance. I promise to be worthy of your trust every single day of our lives." "I promise to trust you," Simone said. "Even when fear tells me not to. I promise to build with you, not just for you. I promise to let you love me completely and without reservation. I promise to show our daughter what a real partnership looks like. I promise to keep surprising you with my genius." Everyone laughed. Julian grinned. "I'm counting on it." The reception was joyful. They danced under string lights. They ate cake. They celebrated love and second chances and the beautiful messiness of life. Brianna made a speech that had everyone crying. "My mama is the strongest person I know. She kept us safe even when everything was scary. And Julian makes her happy. He makes us both happy. I'm really glad they found each other." 6 months later, Whitmore Industries announced a major expansion. Simone had developed a new financial model that would revolutionize how companies handled international investments. The stock price soared. The board gave both her and Julian massive bonuses. They used the money to establish the Patterson-Whitmore Foundation, dedicated to helping women in finance who'd been victimized by fraud or corporate abuse. They hired Helen Martinez as director. Within a year, they'd helped 200 women fight back and reclaim their careers. Simone's story became more than just her own. It became a symbol. Proof that no matter how far you fall, you can rise again. Proof that kindness and hope and love can overcome even the darkest circumstances. Proof that the invisible can become visible, the silenced can speak, the broken can heal. One evening, 2 years after that fateful night when Julian had asked her a mocking question, they sat in their living room. Brianna was doing homework at the kitchen table. Their home was filled with the comfortable sounds of family life. The television murmured. A pot of pasta bubbled on the stove. Everything was normal and perfect and real. "Do you ever miss it?" Julian asked. "The old life? Before everything fell apart?" Simone thought about it. "No. That life was impressive, but it was also lonely. I was successful, but I didn't know who my real friends were. I had money, but I didn't have meaning. This life, this messy, complicated, beautiful life we've built together, this is better. This is real. Even the part where I leave my socks everywhere? Even that part. Though I'm still training you out of that habit. Good luck. Mom's been trying for 39 years. They laughed. Brianna looked up from her homework. "What's so funny?" "Just your dad being silly," Simone said. "He's always silly. That's why we love him." Later, after Brianna was asleep, Simone stood at their bedroom window, looking out at the city. Julian came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how much has changed. About how I used to look at this city and see 1,000 promises I'd never touch. Now I see possibilities. Hope. Future. That's because you're not invisible anymore. I was never invisible. I was just hiding. There's a difference." "True. But I'm glad you stopped hiding. The world needs to see you. I need to see you. You do see me. That's the miracle. You saw me when I was scrubbing floors. You saw my brilliance when I was trying to hide it. You saw my fear and you didn't run. You saw everything and you stayed. I'll always stay." Julian turned her around to face him. "You know what the best part of my day is?" "What?" "This. Right here. Standing with you. Knowing that tomorrow we get to do it all again. Build things. Love each other. Raise Brianna. Make the world a little better. I get to do all of that with the smartest, strongest, most incredible woman I've ever met. Flatterer. Truth teller." He kissed her softly. "I love you, Dr. Patterson Whitmore. I love you too." They stood there, wrapped in each other as the city sparkled below them. Two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way. A billionaire CEO and a janitor who was so much more than she appeared. A woman who'd lost everything and found it again. A man who'd learned that the most valuable things are often right in front of you, if you're just willing to see. In the next room, Brianna slept peacefully, safe and loved. Tomorrow she'd go to school and learn new things. She'd come home to parents who adored her. She'd grow up watching her mother be brilliant and her father be kind, and she'd learn that love isn't about power or control, but about seeing and being seen. Simone had gone from invisible to iconic. From janitor to CFO. From victim to victor. But the greatest transformation wasn't in her career or her bank account or her public reputation. It was in her heart. She'd learned to trust again. To hope again. To love again. And she taught Julian something equally valuable. That brilliance can wear any uniform. That the people you overlook might be the ones you need most. That asking a question, even as a joke, can change everything. Because sometimes, the most brilliant mind in the room is the one no one has bothered to see. Until someone does. And when they do, magic happens. Years later, when people asked Simone how she'd survived, how she'd come back from losing everything, she'd smile and tell them the truth. "I never lost everything. I had my daughter. I had my intelligence. I had my hope. Those things no one could take from me. Everything else I could rebuild. And when the right person saw me, really saw me, the rebuilding became easier. Because I wasn't alone anymore. And that really was the secret. Not just to success but to life. To let yourself be seen. To see others. To trust that kindness and hope and love aren't weaknesses, but the greatest strengths of all." Simone Patterson Whitmore had learned that lesson the hard way. But she'd learned it well. And now she spent her life teaching it to others. One speech at a time. One scholarship at a time. One woman at a time. Because everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone deserves hope. And sometimes all it takes is someone asking the right question. Even if they ask it as a joke.